What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about how you can create chord progressions that flow musically and naturally simply by using your ear. And I wanted to make this video because it really is important. Your ear is the most important tool you have at your disposal when it comes to making music. No matter what part of the music making phase you're in, your ear is relied upon every single step of the way. So this one will talk specifically about hearing chords, functional harmony, how you can relate them to each other, and therefore create musical results and chord progressions that just make musical sense. And really exciting is that this is actually a preview, a completely free preview from a course I'm actually launching today called Transformative Ear Training. So before we get into this video, I just want to quickly walk you through this course. It basically is a 6-module course that goes through an introduction to listening, all the way through melody, harmony, and rhythm. So how to listen to melodies and harmonies and transcribe them by ear, but also how to write them yourselves, and also orchestration, internalizing the orchestra so you know exactly which instruments to use for your arrangements, and mixes as well, how to create great mixes just by listening and using your ear. It's a lot of practical application that will help you become a better composer. And like we said, your ear is your most important tool. So I wanted to make a complete system that walks you through the entire process step by step. So if you're interested in checking that out, feel free to use the first link in the description box below. It'll take you straight to that sales page where you can take a look and see if it's a good fit. It's open this week, so if you'd like to join us before the doors close, I'd love to have you. And it's also at the intro price as well. So the next time we open, the price will increase, just so you know. But yeah, that's available for you if you want, using the description box below, okay? So anyway, but let's get into this video. We'll talk about how to create beautiful chord progressions just by using your ear. This is going to be really practical, really actionable, and I'm excited to walk you through this, so let's go. All right, my friend, welcome to this video. So now we're going to put the pieces together. So far, we've identified what individual chord qualities, inversions, and types sound like. So now we need to put these things together and understand how they function together within context of a scale and chord progression. So this video is really important if you want to understand how chord progressions flow naturally, what chords kind of go from one to another, and kind of hearing them all in context with one another. So that's going to be really fun. So first of all, what is functional harmony? Well, essentially, it's a series of chords that fit within a tonal framework, giving each chord a specific function within a key. In other words, we're not just hearing the chords in isolation anymore, like, oh, this is a C chord or this is an A minor chord, whatever. But now we're saying, okay, if we're in the key of, let's say, C major, then each chord has its own function. The 1 chord does this, the 5 chord does this, the 3 chord does this, right? So the relationships between these chords can create tension and resolution that add movement and flow to a piece of music. Great music tends to flow really easily and just makes musical sense, whereas bad pieces of music have harmony that don't really make sense. It just doesn't feel right. And so we're going to talk about what does feel right here. And so picking up from scales and keys, each note of a scale can have a chord built on top of it. So if we take a look, the bottom note in each bar you can see is the C major scale. There's a C, D, E, F, G, A, B at the bottom of each of those chords. So if you stack in thirds on top of each of these notes, now you have the tonic chord, or the C major chord. Then the 2 chord is built on the D, right? The second note of the scale, you stack in thirds, D, F, A, and that's the 2 chord. That's the supertonic. That's the name of the second scale degree. Then the third is called the mediant, and that's the 3 chord, the 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, and 7 chord. Now, just so you know, the 1, 4, and 5 chords are all major chords, major triads in a major scale. So the 1 chord, the C chord, the 4 chord, the subdominant chord, and the 5 chord, the dominant chord, are all major. So lots of chords are just based on 1, 4, 5, and 1, just to keep the whole song sounding really happy and positive. However, the 2 chord, the 3 chord, and the 6 chord are all minor. You can hear how these are a little bit sadder. 2, 3, and 6. They sound a little sadder. And then the 7th chord at the very end there on the right is an outlier. That's a diminished triad just based on the intervallic relationships. They're both minor thirds. So this chord, because it's so depressing and sad, we usually leave it out in a lot of, especially like pop contexts. So a lot of music is based on the 1 chord to the 6 chord, just mixing and matching major and minor chords to create an interesting piece of music, okay? So just keep in mind, 1, 4, and 5 are major chords, 2, 3, and 6 are minor chords in a major scale. So let's quickly talk about these chord relationships. How do they basically work? Well, whenever we talk about the word tonic being the 1, it makes us feel really comfortable and resolved, right? Think about the scales, like we talked about, the tonic always feels the most resolved and at home. But in every scale, there are actually three tonic chords, tonic function chords. There are three chords that serve of a tonic function. Obviously, the one chord is the tonic chord. It's literally the tonic, the home of the scale. So that is really important. But then the 3 chord and the 6 chord also serve sort of a tonic function. So whenever you're going to one of these chords, the 1, 3, or the 6, you can kind of feel at rest here. So we call these 3 chords tonic function chords. Then we have the subdominant chords, which are at the bottom left there, and they lead us away from home towards the dominant. So hence the word subdominant, it's below the dominant, and then it usually goes to the dominant after that. So this would be the 2 chord and the 4 chord. Either one of these chords can be used to lead towards a dominant chord, which have the most tension and resolve back to the tonic chords. So this would be the 5 chord, which again we said usually resolves back to the 1, or the 7 chord, resolving back to the 1. So with this logic, you could start from the tonic, you can start with the 1 chord, go to a subdominant chord, the 2 chord, let's say, then go to the 5 chord, the dominant chord, and then back to the tonic. Very nice. Let's try another one. Let's maybe start from the 6 chord this time. So in the key of C major, we start on A minor, that's the 6 chord. Then this time, let's go to the 4 chord, subdominant. And then let's go to the dominant chord. Let's choose 7 this time. And then back to the tonic, let's say back to the 1. But you can hear how the 7 chord sounds a little bit weird because it's a diminished triad, doesn't really fit that well. So most of the times, if you go for a dominant chord, it's going to be the 5 chord. Let's try one more here. Let's start from the 1 chord again. Let's go to the 4, subdominant. Let's go to the 5, dominant. And then instead of going back to the 1 this time, let's go to the 6. So it still sounds resolved, but it's a little bit sadder, right? But it works because it serves a tonic function, that 6 chord. So you can see how this starts to work, right? Now, that being said, you don't have to start from tonic all the time and go to subdominant next all the time and then go to dominant and then back to tonic. But following this formula does almost guarantee you a smooth chord progression. You could honestly just go from tonic, dominant, tonic, like 1, 5, 1, very, very common. You can have dominant going to subdominant, 5 to 4, and 4 can go to 1 as well. But in classical tradition, the strongest you can get is really going from 1 to subdominant to the dominant, which has the most tension, and then going back to the tonic. But just understanding this overall functional framework gives you a good basis in how chords work in relation to one another. So again, going back to that question, what are we listening for? Well, once we identify the tonic of our key, we can now predict what chord will come next. So for example, if we hear a tonic chord, then it will likely go to a subdominant chord or directly to the dominant if you want that tension even faster. If we hear a subdominant chord, then where's it going to go? Most likely it's going to go to the dominant, right? Because then it has the most tension and then it wants to resolve back to the tonic. And if we hear dominant, most likely it's going to go back to the tonic chord. Although like we just explained, it could also go back to the dominant if you want, back to the subdominant and then go back to the tonic if you want to do that. So it really, the possibilities are limitless, but if you follow this sort of pattern, this is how we can create those chord progressions that sound natural and flow really seamlessly because you're following this framework and each role that the chord plays is followed by the chord that kind of works next in sequence, if you will. So again, you can start from a tonic chord. Lots of pop songs especially will start on the tonic chord, let's say in the key of C major. Then going to the subdominant of your choice, either the 2 or the 4, let's say the 2 chord, and then the dominant going to the 5 and back to the 1. So 1, 2, 5, 1, or maybe 1, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 5, 3. And then 3 would probably want to go to the 6, or 3 could go down to 2, or 3 could go back up to 4, and then 5, 1. Kind of like that. But yeah, anything can really work. But just understanding this framework will give you that basis. And you can kind of create your own chord progressions from scratch, understanding this framework, understanding what chord wants to go where next, right? And of course, you can break those rules, but I think it's important we know those rules first of all. So overall, you can see how this makes things really simple. Most music roots itself in a tonal center of some sort, whether it's a major or minor key, and will generally introduce the tonic chord in the first position of a progression. So let's say I'm doing a pop song and I have 4 chords. Most likely to establish that chord, or the key, I'm going to start on the 1 chord. So if I'm in the key of F major, I can do F major, so the 1, then go to the 6, go to the 4, go to the 5, go back to the 1. So starting with the 1 chord is very, very common and very, very strong, but you can also put the 1 chord in the 3rd position. So let's say we go in F major, 6, 4, 1, 5. So this would be D minor, B flat major, F major, C major. That would be the 5 chord, 5 going back to the 6. So once we lock onto the tonic, we now know where home is. And so everything else can be analyzed in relation to that tonic. Again, it goes back to the do, understanding where that tonic is, really identifying it, and then everything else functions in relation to that tonic. So this is why relative pitch is so important and why I keep on stressing this. You can hear the relationships between the chords and map it out like a musical plan. Starting with that 1 chord, deciding where you want your piece to go, what chords you want to explore. Do you want to change keys? Do you want to change up your progressions? All of that can be determined once you know where the home is, where you're starting from at the very beginning. So if you're trying to analyze music, then start with pieces featuring a sparser arrangement. Maybe there's only like 1 or 2 instruments. That will make it a lot easier to kind of hear the chords that are being played by that instrument. Then move on to busier arrangements, really focusing on the chords underneath that bottom note again and the chord quality to tell you if it's major, minor, etc. And the bottom note will tell you the position of those chords. But ultimately, you should internalize just the way every chord makes us feel. Like the first inversion feels different than the second inversion, feels different than a 7th chord, feels different than a root position triad. All of these chords have their own feel. So that's why I recommend playing over and over and over until you really can accurately say, okay, this definitely sounds like a major triad, or this sounds like a minor 7th, right? You want to get to that point where it's so easy, and that will make your harmonic flexibility just a lot more varied when it comes to transcribing music, identifying them easily, and writing your own music as well. All right? Hopefully this kind of makes sense. Catch you in the next video. Let's keep on moving. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video on writing chord progressions and understanding how chords work in relation to each other. That really is the foundation for understanding how music works as a whole, especially for Western harmony when we're trying to create our own chord progressions from scratch. Using your ear is so important and understanding those relationships, okay? So again, if you want to check out the full system for ear training from start to finish, I'd love to give you my transformative ear training course. You can just check out the first link in the description box below. It'll tell you all through details, the pricing, and the bonuses as well if you want to join us this week. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.